Hello, everyone. In our revision lesson today, we'd be discussing the behavioral explanation and the psychodynamic explanation of fear related disorders. Now, anxiety disorders or fear related disorders, this is unit number 4, that is the second last unit when you're preparing for clinical psychology. This question that we have in front of us, this is a typical 6 mark question that we have picked up from May-June 2024, paper 3, variant 3.3. This is question number 4A, where question number 4B, that is a 10-mark question that expects us to evaluate the same thing, right? Evaluate the same topic, this very topic, right? Now, to begin with, one more thing. If I talk about this particular question, I wouldn't really want to get into a lot of detail because I have explained the behavioral explanation in another revision lesson number 13. Yeah, so that would be revision lesson number 13. If you want to get into detail, if you want to know more details, you might as well go there and go through it. So to begin with, if we talk about this particular question, the question over here reads, describe the behavioral explanation and the psychodynamic explanation of fear related disorders. As we refer to the behavioral explanation over here, we are talking about when we talk about this behavioral explanation. According to the behavioral explanation, individuals develop fear related disorders because of their prior experiences, because of the environment, because of an external factor. The key word over here is learning. Individuals learn how to be scared. And of course, the treatment in this case would be to help individuals with the unlearning process. So to begin with, a phobia develops. Let's just pick up another color. A phobia develops as the neutral stimulus is paired with something that the person is afraid of. That is the unconditioned stimulus. If enough pairings occur or the initial unconditioned stimulus is very frightening, the person will end up with a fear of the neutral stimulus. The neutral stimulus then becomes the conditioned stimulus. Now, for example, if we talk about the study that was conducted by Watson and Rayner in 1920, this is the study that we're talking about. This young boy, little Albert, he was not initially not scared of anything. He was a young boy who was 9 months old. And what the researchers did was, okay, I'll just walk you through this real quick. So this young boy, little Albert, was not scared of anything initially. And later for the researchers to find out that if this boy was scared of anything, it was the sound of a metallic sound, right? So the researchers kept on trying different things. They bought a white rat in front of the boy, and initially the boy was not scared, right? However, when the researchers found out that if it was something that the boy was scared of, it was the sound of a metal. Now, what Watson and Rayner started doing was they tried forming an association between the white rat and the metallic sound. How did they do this? As soon as the white rat came in front of the young boy, they strike the metallic bar right near, very close to the child, and the boy started crying. So the stimulus over here was the metallic sound, and the response was the boy crying, right? Now, what the researchers did was, like I said, they formed an association. Now, whenever the white rat would come in front of the child, they would strike the metal bar right very close to the child, which consequently resulted in the boy crying. And after a couple of trials, after the seventh trial, it was seen that this metallic sound was no more required because the young boy, that is Albert, had already formed an association. And every time the boy now saw the white rat, the boy expected the metallic sound to be there, which eventually consequently resulted in crying. So this is an example of classical conditioning. Going back to the marking scheme, if we have a look at the marking scheme, uh yeah, so if we have a look at the marking scheme here, Watson and Rayner, 1920, little Albert, who was conditioned to be afraid of a rat, that was a neutral stimulus initially by Watson, by banging an iron bar, that was an unconditioned stimulus behind the baby, which made him cry, that was an unconditioned response. Eventually, Just the sight of the rat, that is conditioned stimulus, was enough to cause the boy to cry. That is a conditioned response. Now, moving on towards the second explanation that we have over here is the psychodynamic explanation. As I keep on saying, for the psychodynamic explanation, there are three core things that you should all keep in mind. Number one, personality structures, which I believe I have explained in the same lesson, that is revision lesson number 13. Number two, the psychosexual stages of development. If there's anything that requires any further explanation, feel free to let me know, and I'd, by the will of God, inshallah, try to help you with that too. So personality structure, psychosexual stages of development, and defense mechanisms. If you understand this, there's nothing that you cannot answer in terms of your CIs when it comes to the psychodynamic explanation. So according to the psychodynamic explanation, fear-related disorders are caused because of this. So a fear is repressed into the unconscious to protect the ego. Your ego over here, remember your personality structures included your id, your ego, and your superego. So a fear is repressed into the unconscious to protect the ego. The phobia can be redirected. Fear during an intensely frightening experience, such as a physical attack on to an object. Denied repressed impulses of the id, which is again a personality structure, which happen during childhood, often during psychosexual stages of development. When there's conflict between the desires of the id and the desires of the ego, conflict is repressed into the unconscious, and the phobic object situation symbolizes this conflict. Now, remember your ego, your id, they are your personality structures. Here comes the psychosexual stages of development into play, and we could perhaps pick up information from here. And whatever part you think you want to give a read, you might as well pause and just read it. This is the example study by Freud on this young boy, little Hans, which would help you understand all of this really well. So moving on, this was the description part. The question over here read, describe the behavioral explanation of the psychodynamic, describe the behavioral explanation and the psychodynamic explanation of fear related disorders. If you require any sort of help on either, feel free to let me know. For now, that's it. Or rather say, before that, we have a bit more. We have this explanation from the study by Freud, the example study. So for example, Freud in 1909 may also summarize the case of little Hans with a phobia on with a focus on phobia, horse or bath. For example, Hans developed a fear of white horses as this was a redirected fear of his father, a defense mechanism. Just put it down over here. He, that is little Albert, was sorry, I'm sorry, not little Albert, little Hans. So Hans was in the phallic stage of the psychosexual stages of development and was experiencing the Oedipus complex. Now remember, there are 5 different psychosexual stages of development which you should be aware of: the oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage. I'll just write them down: the oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage, the latency stage, and the genital stage. So these 5 different psychosexual stages of development, little Hans was actually going through this phase, the phallic phase. Now taking this ahead, Hans was in the phallic stage of psychosexual stage of development and was experiencing Oedipus complex. What is Oedipus complex over here? Oedipus complex, according to Freud, the idea that a young boy is sexually attracted towards his mother. He had sexual desires for his mother and feared his father would castrate him. Hans displays these strong feelings of fear and hatred towards his father on two horses, which reminded him of his father. Now, he displays these strong feelings towards horses instead of his father, and this is again an example of defense mechanism. So Hans displays these strong feelings of fear or hatred towards his father onto horses, which reminded him of his father, with long mane, black nose band similar to his father's facial hair, and blinkers similar to father's glasses. Now we just spoke about the basics on or the theory behind behavioral or classical conditioning, and this is an example based on this theory. Over here, we spoke about the theory, the psychodynamic explanation, followed by an example of the psychodynamic explanation. So, because this is a revision lesson, I tried keeping it a bit short and quick. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.